Hi Lily, this is Marc Reid. I'm an academic in chemistry based in Glasgow, Scotland. I trained as a physical organic chemist. In fact, it was back in my PhD days that I had the great pleasure of meeting Sylvia for the first time. And the bolder I get up top, the more I realise that those days were longer ago than I care to think. Now, it's actually nothing to do with mine and Sylvia's shared chemistry history that I come to you in this video today. Sylvia reached out for entirely different reasons. And it was partly to do with the fact that as I was moving out of my PhD, as we parted ways, I went down a postdoc track, tried and failed to move into academia and tried again. And all the while as I was going through that part of my career, I noticed that I was starting to subtly but seriously change my day-to-day behaviours. I would compare myself more to people around me. I would come up with more and more intricate excuses as to why my other postdoc and PhD colleagues were cleverer than I was and knew things that were more valuable than what I could contribute to the team. It sounds melodramatic, but I did get to the point where every day I thought, today's the day where the boss is going to come storming through the door, rip up my contract in front of me and say, "We found you out, you don't belong here, go back to where you came from." With all of those thoughts circling in my head earlier in my career, I really didn't know at some point whether a career in science was right for me. The career that I'm now in was one that took place through a fleeting chance, really. I wrote a secret diary to myself for 2 years just to get these thoughts out of my head. And it was only much later that I seriously started to study what most of us know as the imposter syndrome. If I have no other time than to say this to you, Lily, hear this. Feeling like an imposter is not a syndrome. When it was first studied, it was actually coined as the imposter phenomenon. Because whether you're in Lily now at the early stages of your career, or you're someone who's more senior, more established, been around and forgotten more than I've ever learned about chemistry, the fact remains the same, that whatever your next career ambition, the next step in the ladder, the next thing that drives you to push yourself further, each one of those will bring up the triggers of the imposter phenomenon again and again. It's not an enemy to smash or crush or cure or get rid of. The imposter phenomenon is something to recognise as an old friend. So long as you're ambitious, so long as you keep pushing yourself, this old friend can come back to walk with you time and time again. It's not just that feeling like an imposter is not a syndrome. In fact, that feeling like an imposter is exactly how you should feel if you know that you're working on a challenge that's worthy of your efforts. It sounds easy speaking to you at Lily today about this, but I am still as much staring myself in the mirror and saying those things almost a decade after I first started feeling these challenges. It's as important to myself now as it was then, and I hope it's that message that signals to you that everything I say here to you is entirely genuine. None of it has gone away. If you're feeling this now, realise, please, that you are not alone, and that when you get over this imposter experience for the current thing that you're working on, take comfort in the fact that it will come back again when you challenge yourself even further. Now, just before I leave you, Sylvia, you'll be well within your rights to pause and get rid of me at this point. But if people are still hanging on, I thought for Lily about what part of what eventually became my book, You Are Not a Fraud, would I like to share with you. How could I articulate what I've just said better, looking back at what I wrote once upon a time? So with one more minute, let me share with you this last part of chapter 7 of You Are Not a Fraud. In many ways, the story of the imposter phenomenon is the story of social comparison. If you've ever felt like an imposter, I'd be willing to bet it is, at least in part, because you have endlessly compared yourself to the best in your business, the big shot a few ranks above you, who is showered with fandom and seems famous. Their success seems so close. and yet so far. Feeling like an imposter often arises from people trying desperately to find their unique place in the crowd. You feel like such a rip-off because you have so many opportunities to think of yourself as the small fish swimming into a shark-infested ocean. Stave off imposter experiences by finding your niche. Face uncharted waters. Don't be the big fish. Be the only fish. The only game of comparison that you will ever win is making you now better than you then. Lily, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and indeed the rest of Sylvia's talk. And all the very best for whatever you're working on now and whatever ambitions are still to come. Take care.